Humanity has run, tripped, and tumbled down the long path that makes up our history. Every moment tangles together to form the foundation of our world today. In this show, we explore the surprising influences on our modern identity and ask ourselves, how did we get here? In this episode, we focus on the history of bowling and its surprising parallels to modern-day slacktivism. Slacktivism. In 2010, UNAIDS defined it as the idea that you can support a cause by performing simple measures without being truly devoted to making a change. From posting a colored square on social media to wearing a t-shirt for a cause, it's believed that these simple gestures can raise awareness for issues that would otherwise be overlooked. And while these actions can set people on the path to activism, it can also lead others to losing sight of the original goal. Consider this surprising example. Bowling. While there's evidence that bowling could date back as far as 3200 BCE, the modern rendition was created around the 3rd or 4th century by German monks. The ceremony used a kegel, a club that people commonly carried around for self-defense and sport. Since so many people had one, it made the ceremony more accessible. In the ceremony, the kegel represented Haida, which roughly translates to heathen or sin. If you were able to knock over the kegel, you had cleansed yourself from sin. If you couldn't knock it over, it meant that you needed to become a better Christian. While the ceremony may or may not have actually absolved you from sin, its goal was effectively to encourage people to participate in a community rooted in charity and care. This was the original purpose. So, when did we lose sight? Well, it all started when Germans took the game out of the church. They replaced the kegel with a bowling pin designed specifically for the game, and a set of rules were established over a millennium later thanks in no small part to Martin Luther. Yes, the Protestant reformer Martin Luther. But rather than focus on bringing religion back into the sport, he was more interested in defining the number of pins, specifically 9. And once bowling made its way to North America, it was Luther's 9-pin version that got popular. Too popular. By the 1830s, bowling was thriving in the United States, and like many popular sports, people realized that they could use bowling to make a profit. Gambling overtook the sport, which quickly became a problem. The crowds created a lot of noise, and the gambling evolved into crime and racketeering. Bowling was born as a ceremony to cleanse sin, but along the way, it became a source for sinning. How? That's where slacktivism comes in. Slacktivism is popular because it's easy, accessible, and low cost, which allows practically anyone to raise awareness for issues that they care about. And that includes German monks who want to raise awareness for their church services. The simplicity of the sport may have led to short-term success, but it also made it easy for people to separate bowling from the church. Over time, this meant that an innocent activity could become associated with crime. This is just one example of how slacktivism is often rooted in good intentions, but can easily fall off its intended path. But even if that happens, there are ways it can find its way back. In 1841, Connecticut banned bowling to stymie gambling and illegal activity. While the law banned any form of the sport, it specifically referenced 9-pin bowling. Interestingly, it's rumored that the sport evolved to include an extra pin in attempts to circumvent this very law. Regardless, the ban worked in tandem with standardized regulations to stomp out illegal activity and create the sport we know today. And this ritual, originally designed to create community and charity, finally found itself returning to its roots, with bowling being at the heart of countless fundraisers and events, raising awareness and money for change. The beauty of slacktivism is in its promise of simplicity. One hashtag, one petition, and the problem is solved. But that is rarely ever the case. Time and time again, we find that meaningful change requires the concerted efforts of communities and legislature. Sometimes, those efforts include the tasks associated with slacktivism, but it's important to remember that it's only a small part. Meaningful change needs volunteers, long-term commitment, and donations to turn a dream into reality. Sharing posts is a great start, but if you want to strike complex solutions, you'll need more than a simple act on social media.